Carl Jung once said that being born is not enough. We must be reborn again and again throughout life. This rebirth does not happen randomly or without meaning. Rather, it unfolds through deep internal processes that gradually reshape the way we perceive ourselves and the world around us. Often, these transformations take place without us being fully aware of them, at least not right away. Jung spoke of something he called individuation, the journey through which a person sheds what was imposed upon them by society, culture, or upbringing in order to reconnect with their true essence. And this process of inner rebirth doesn't occur just once. It happens many times, at various stages of our existence. Each time it does, it brings with it profound shifts that might initially seem confusing, disorienting, or even painful. There comes a moment when something inside you begins to change. You can't pinpoint exactly when it started, but you can feel it. It's subtle, like a whisper echoing from somewhere deep inside, reminding you that you're no longer the person you once were, but you're not yet who you're meant to become either. It's an odd sensation, like standing between two worlds, the familiar past and the uncertain future. You look in the mirror and see the same face, but something underneath is shifting. It's not visible, yet it's undeniably present. Your thoughts, your emotions, your perspective, they're all being quietly, steadily transformed. This is the beginning of a spiritual rebirth, a deep, often solitary process that takes place just before life offers you a new and unexpected path. One of the first signs of this internal transformation is resistance to change, and the emotional exhaustion that comes with it. It's not that you don't want things to shift. In fact, a part of you knows that change is essential, but another part clings tightly to what's known and familiar. Your mind begins to find excuses, trying to keep you anchored in your current reality, even though you feel it no longer serves you. You might start justifying situations that deep down you know have become toxic or stagnant. Relationships that once nurtured you now feel draining. Habits that once comforted you now seem meaningless. A routine that once offered structure now feels like a prison. And though you try to ignore it, the discomfort only grows. You start feeling a strange kind of tiredness, not just physically, but emotionally and mentally too. It's as if you're carrying an invisible weight that grows heavier with each passing day. What once excited you no longer brings joy. Conversations that once sparked your interest now feel hollow and forced. And deep within, you begin to question everything. Are you truly living the life you want, or merely the life you thought you were supposed to live? But here's the crucial truth. This inner weariness is not a sign that something is broken inside you. On the contrary, it's the first indication that something within you is awakening. The version of yourself that once fit so neatly into your current life is beginning to fall apart. Not because you've failed, but because you're evolving. And although the uncertainty that comes with change can make you doubt everything, this is the moment where you must trust the process the most. Because this kind of transformation doesn't happen overnight. It begins quietly in the background of your everyday life. It starts with small signals, the discomfort you feel in places where you once felt at ease, the frustration at situations you used to tolerate, the growing sense that something just doesn't sit right anymore. These subtle signs build up slowly, until eventually they can't be ignored. You try to carry on with your routine. You try to hold on to what's familiar, but something inside of you resists. What once made you feel secure now brings unease. You may find yourself inexplicably drained by environments that used to energize you. Conversations that once felt natural now seem forced or even unbearable. And the strangest part is that you can't quite explain why. You might begin to feel like you're trapped between two versions of yourself, who you've been and who you're becoming. The life you've known still exists, but it no longer fits. And although a new path seems to be calling, it's still unclear, undefined. There are moments when you feel a deep urge to make drastic changes. Yet at the same time, fear grips you. One part of you knows transformation is necessary, while the other can't bear to let go of what's known. This internal tug-of-war can take a toll not just on your emotions, but on your body as well. You may start to experience unexplained fatigue, disrupted sleep, mood swings, or moments of deep introspection that you can't quite put into words. You may feel distant from the people around you, not because there's been conflict, but because something inside of you no longer resonates with them the way it once did. Even your perception of time begins to shift. Days might drag on endlessly or pass in the blink of an eye, leaving you feeling like nothing meaningful is happening, even though something profound is taking place beneath the surface. On the outside, everything might appear the same, but internally, your soul is moving, stirring, transforming. This is when many people instinctively cling even harder to what they know. They seek distractions, immerse themselves in work, busy themselves with obligations, anything to avoid the discomfort. They push forward without asking too many questions, hoping the feeling will go away. But no matter how much you try to suppress it, that emptiness persists. It lingers as a quiet reminder that something no longer fits and that something greater is waiting to be discovered. The key in this moment is not to fight the discomfort, but to listen to it, to realize that this feeling of emotional fatigue and inner conflict is not a problem to be fixed, but a message, a signal that it's time to evolve. This is your inner voice calling you forward. It's telling you that you can't stay where you are, that it's time to let go of fear, to surrender to the unknown, and to trust that even if you don't yet understand where you're headed, this process is leading you toward a truer, more authentic version of yourself. The second internal transformation, the breaking away from everything that once defined you. After that first inner shift, where the cracks began to form in your old worldview, something very subtle, yet incredibly powerful, begins to happen. You start to sense that the things that used to define you, the ones you clung to so tightly as part of your identity, no longer hold the same weight. What once seemed essential for understanding who you are now feels less relevant, almost as if the foundation of yourself is slowly dissolving. The labels you once embraced so confidently, the roles you played in your family, your career title, your social status, your beliefs about what success should look like, and even how you interacted with others, suddenly begin to feel more like a cage than a truth. It's as if you're stepping outside of your own life, observing it from a completely new perspective. And from that place, with clearer eyes, you begin to see something profound. Many of the decisions you made along the way didn't actually come from your authentic self. They were shaped by the expectations of others, your family, your culture, your social circles, and by the subconscious programming you absorbed growing up. You followed paths that were laid out before you because you believed they were the right ones. But now, you're beginning to see the cracks in those beliefs. You realize that what you once thought was unchangeable was, in fact, just a mental construct, something you inherited, not something you chose. This is a critical point in your personal evolution. It's the moment when the illusion begins to crumble. And as unsettling as it may be, it's also an incredible opportunity. Because with that crumbling comes clarity. You might find yourself questioning your purpose in life. You might begin to reevaluate the dreams you've been chasing, only to discover that they no longer inspire you. Goals that once seemed so vital to your happiness now feel hollow, distant, or disconnected from who you're becoming. And yes, this can feel disorienting, even scary. That feeling of not knowing exactly where you're headed or who you are anymore might leave you feeling lost. But it's important to understand this. What you're experiencing isn't a breakdown, it's a breakthrough. That uncertainty is not a problem. It's an invitation. It's the doorway to uncovering what truly resonates with your inner self. What's fascinating about this shift is that it doesn't happen with a sudden dramatic event. It's not like you wake up one morning and decide to abandon everything you've ever known. Instead, it feels more like a slow erosion, something subtle that takes place within you, little by little. Each day, a small part of your old self begins to fade. A thought that once felt reassuring now feels limiting. A routine that used to comfort you now feels confining. You might continue working the same job, spending time with the same people, or living in the same home. Outwardly, things may appear unchanged, but internally, something has shifted. That sense of security you once drew from these familiar aspects of life now feels foreign, like it no longer belongs to you. And at this stage, many people report feeling an inner emptiness, a kind of identity void, as though they've lost their compass and are floating in the unknown. If you've ever felt this way, know this: it's completely natural. You're not losing yourself. You are shedding an outdated version of who you once believed yourself to be. And while this may feel unsettling at first, it's an essential part of your spiritual rebirth. You are not breaking down. You are rebuilding. You're letting go of the facade to uncover a deeper truth that has always been within you, waiting for the space to emerge. As this detachment from your former identity deepens, you begin to notice something remarkable. The things that used to trigger you, hurt you, or define your emotional responses no longer hold the same power over you. Other people's opinions, society's demands, or even your own internal pressure to succeed start to lose their grip. It's as if layer by layer, the conditioning that once shaped your world is peeling away, revealing a more honest version of you, one that has always existed, just hidden beneath the noise. Your perception of the world begins to shift as well. Conversations you used to engage in now feel shallow. The roles you used to play in social settings start to feel scripted, mechanical. You realize that many of your interactions were driven by the desire to fit in, to fulfill a part, to play a character in a story you never wrote for yourself. And suddenly, you're no longer interested in playing along. You feel like an outsider in your own life, witnessing the old narrative from a completely new dimension. During this phase, it's common to feel nostalgic for the person you used to be. You might remember times when you felt more certain of your identity, more in control. Back then, you didn't question much. You followed the rules, checked the boxes, did what was expected. But that certainty, you now realize, was a comfort born of illusion. And the truth is, it was never really you. The discomfort you feel now isn't a sign that something's wrong. It's the space where something new, something more real, can be born. Another sign of this inner shift is the fading importance of the roles that once gave your life meaning. If you once measured your worth by how successful you were in your career, how much praise you received, or how many people approved of you, those markers now feel hollow. You begin to ask yourself, did any of that truly fulfill me? And in the silence that follows that question, you hear an answer you've never allowed yourself to speak out loud before. You realize you are carrying dreams that weren't yours, chasing goals that didn't align with your soul, living a life that didn't reflect your essence. And that realization brings grief, not for what you're losing, but for what was never real to begin with. You mourn the time you spent living someone else's version of your life. You grieve the energy invested in building an identity that now feels like a mask. This is where many people are tempted to turn back, to cling to the comfort of the known, no matter how false it may be. But here lies your most important decision: to stay in the illusion, or to step into the unknown and begin again. Because that feeling of emptiness, it's not a void, it's a sacred space, a clean canvas, the fertile soil where your truest self can finally grow. And in the middle of all this confusion and transformation, something surprising starts to happen. You feel a strange, gentle lightness. It may not be strong, but it's there, like a whisper in your soul, a subtle release. As you let go of the burdens of expectation, the weight of identity, the strain of performance, you begin to feel free. You no longer need to explain who you are. You no longer feel the urge to meet every standard. You realize you can just be. You may not have all the answers yet. You might still be navigating the fog. But inside, something tells you that what's coming is more authentic than anything you've known before. And that quiet trust, that deep inner knowing, is the true beginning of your spiritual rebirth. The third internal transformation, the uncontrollable need to find a deeper purpose. After you've questioned who you really are and stripped away the labels that once defined you, something inevitable begins to stir within. It's not just a fleeting thought or a random feeling, it's a deep and undeniable sensation of emptiness, paired with an urgent need to discover something more meaningful, something more real. Simply existing no longer feels like enough. Going through the motions, living on autopilot, chasing the goals society has handed you, it all starts to feel hollow. There's a quiet, persistent whisper from deep within, telling you there is something more, something that has been patiently waiting for you at the core of your being. This shift doesn't come from the mind. It doesn't arrive through logic or rational thought. Instead, it emerges like a pulse you can't ignore, an inner calling that tugs at you at the most unexpected moments. Suddenly, the things that once seemed important, status, validation, achievement, lose their weight. They no longer move you the way they used to. In their place, a new longing is born, a desire to understand what truly drives you, what ignites your soul, what gives your life real meaning. Success, as defined by others, no longer satisfies you. The praise, the material rewards, the structured life, they all start to feel like fragments of a script you never wrote. Now, you crave something more authentic, a connection that feels honest, raw, and true. A connection between what you do, what you think, and what you offer to the world. This is often the moment when people embark on a deep, personal quest for knowledge, for insight, for something greater than themselves. You may begin to find yourself drawn to books you never would have picked up before. Ideas that once seemed too abstract or irrelevant now seem to pulse with life. Conversations that used to bore you suddenly spark curiosity. You might be pulled toward philosophy, spirituality, psychology, subjects you never thought you'd explore. It's as if your mind is expanding, being pulled toward a new dimension, shaking itself free from the inertia that kept you stuck for so long. And yet, what's most fascinating about this journey is that while you're reaching outward, searching for answers in every possible direction, a subtle realization begins to take root. The answers aren't out there. They're within you. Always have been. This isn't about finding a single universal truth. It's about discovering what resonates with you, what stirs something deep inside, what awakens that dormant spark that has been waiting for your attention. This need to find a deeper purpose isn't something you can switch off. It becomes a steady hum in the background of your life, a constant presence. You might catch yourself pondering the meaning of everything while doing the most mundane tasks, or you might find yourself oddly unsatisfied in situations that used to bring comfort or normalcy. It's as if your inner world is demanding a shift, urging you toward change, but without providing a clear roadmap. The frustration of this undefined yearning can be intense. You begin to notice that the goals that once motivated you no longer carry the same energy. Accumulating success, wealth, recognition, none of it feels complete anymore. Not because those things are bad or wrong, but because they feel like shadows of something much larger, something intangible you haven't yet uncovered. It's a sensation of walking without direction, yet feeling certain that there's a destination waiting for you. You can't see it, but you know it's there, and that knowing keeps you moving forward, even through uncertainty. This transformation also shows up in the way you consume information. You start seeking answers in places you never considered before. You explore philosophies that challenge everything you've believed. You question whether the life you've been living is truly yours or merely a reflection of societal expectations. The deeper you go, the more you realize that external answers are never enough. You read, you study, you listen, hoping for clarity. But the emptiness doesn't go away, not because there are no answers, but because your soul is guiding you elsewhere, inward. Many people become discouraged at this point. They treat purpose like a destination, like a fixed goal that must be achieved. But the truth is, purpose isn't a single answer waiting to be found. It's a continuous unfolding. It's about experimenting, feeling, aligning with what makes your spirit come alive. It's about learning to trust your intuition, to follow the signs the universe places before you. And if you pay attention, you may begin to notice patterns. People enter your life at just the right moment, bearing messages that feel tailored just for you. Events unfold in ways that force you to make pivotal decisions. Moments of silence arise, filled with a strange anticipation, as if something is on the verge of being revealed. These aren't coincidences, they're signals. They're part of a deep internal recalibration, guiding you, shaping you, helping you uncover what you're truly meant to discover. But here's the hardest part: patience. In this modern world of instant gratification, we want answers now. We want to know our purpose today. We want clarity, direction, certainty. But true transformation doesn't obey our timelines. It requires surrender. It demands that we release the urge to control and allow things to unfold naturally. It's as if life itself is preparing you for something sacred, but before revealing it, it needs to know you're ready to receive it. And somewhere in the middle of this fog of uncertainty, something begins to shift. A subtle but powerful feeling arises. Even if you don't have all the answers, there's a deep sense that you're exactly where you need to be. You start letting go of the desperate chase for an external purpose and begin connecting with what truly makes you feel alive. You find joy in the process. You start trusting the journey. And when that happens, when you stop searching and start feeling, something magical unfolds. The answers begin to appear, quietly, naturally, and without force. Fourth, inner change. Disconnection from the past and old versions of yourself. As you move forward in this transformation process, you begin to notice a natural distance growing between you and your past. It's not about forgetting what you've lived through, but about realizing that you're no longer the same person. It feels as though you're shedding old skin, leaving behind an identity that no longer fits. The experiences that once defined your life now seem to belong to someone else. You can remember who you were a few years ago, but that version no longer aligns with who you're becoming. Thoughts, beliefs, and habits that once felt permanent now begin to fall apart. What you once considered important now feels irrelevant. At this stage, your emotions also begin to shift. Old wounds don't hurt in the same way anymore. Situations that once triggered anger, sadness, or frustration now feel distant, almost as if you're watching them from the outside. It's not because you've ignored them, but because your perspective has evolved. It's as if a part of you is naturally releasing the weight of what you lived through. This disconnection from the past also affects how you relate to others. Some friendships, relationships, or dynamics that were once essential now feel forced, not because of any visible conflict, but because you no longer share the same energy or interests. Sometimes this is hard to accept, because it means acknowledging that certain connections have simply run their course. Yet the most curious part of this internal shift is that although it can bring nostalgia, it also carries a sense of liberation. You begin to feel lighter, less tied to who you were, and more open to who you're becoming. Even if you're unsure of what's next, you know you're moving towards something far more aligned with your true self. This disconnection doesn't happen abruptly. At first, it's subtle, almost imperceptible. You begin noticing small changes in how you react to situations that used to affect you deeply. Emotional wounds no longer hold the same power. Offenses that once hurt you now seem irrelevant, and the worries that once consumed your thoughts begin to lose their grip. It's as though you're watching your life from a new perspective, with an emotional distance that allows you to understand that everything you've experienced had a purpose, but you no longer need to carry it. It's not that you forget the past, but that it no longer defines you. Moments that once felt crucial now seem like mere chapters in a story that brought you here, but no longer determine who you are. This change is also reflected in your surroundings. You start noticing that people you once resonated with now seem to be on completely different paths. There's no direct conflict, just a growing emptiness in conversations, a lack of flow in interactions, a fading connection. You might try to revive these relationships, but something inside you knows the energy is no longer the same. And this is when nostalgia creeps in. Sometimes your mind tries to hold on to what's familiar, memories that once gave you comfort, versions of yourself that were accepted by others. But when you try to fit back into those spaces, you realize you no longer belong there. Not because anything is wrong with you or with them, but because your growth has led you in a new direction. This distancing from the past also shifts how you perceive your achievements and failures. What once felt like a great victory now seems like just another step. What once seemed like a huge disappointment now feels like a necessary lesson. Your view of success and failure changes entirely as you understand that none of those experiences truly define you. And here, an inevitable question arises. If I'm no longer who I used to be, then who am I now? This becomes a moment of deep introspection. As you let go of the labels and beliefs that once shaped you, you face the uncertainty of discovering your true self. But here's the key. It's not about finding a new fixed identity. It's about allowing yourself to evolve without the constraints of your past. During this phase, you may find yourself drawn to solitude, not because you feel lonely, but because you need space to reconnect with yourself. You prefer introspection over distractions. You seek answers within, rather than outside, and you feel the need to be in places that offer peace, not noise. And while this process may feel uncertain, there's something freeing about it. For the first time, you feel the freedom to reinvent yourself, to choose your path without the weight of past influences, without the expectations that once limited you. This disconnection from who you were isn't a loss. It's the opportunity to create something far more authentic. This is when you realize that the past doesn't define you. It simply prepared you for what's coming. Fifth internal shift: heightened sensitivity and a stronger connection to your intuition. As you detach from the past and the identity you once clung to, something unexpected begins to unfold. Your senses sharpen, and your intuition grows more powerful. You start to perceive the world in a deeper, more vivid way, as though something within you has awakened, enabling you to notice details that once escaped your awareness. Places, people, and situations are no longer things you just see. Now, you feel them with greater intensity. You can sense the energy of a room the moment you walk in. You pick up on people's intentions without them speaking a word. You begin to experience a profound connection to your environment. But this intuition doesn't only show up in what you detect externally. It also manifests as sudden thoughts, strange sensations, and gut feelings that defy logic yet demand your attention. Out of nowhere, you just know which path to take, who to approach, or which decision to avoid, without having a rational explanation for it. At first, this sensory awakening can feel overwhelming. You experience both the good and the bad with more force. What you once tolerated without issue now becomes uncomfortable. Sounds, crowds, shallow conversations, or spaces filled with tension affect you in ways they never did before. It's during this phase that many people feel an intense urge for calm, for nature, for spaces that transmit peace. You begin to seek more quiet moments, not because you're escaping the world, but because you need the space to process everything you're feeling. And the most powerful part of this change is that you begin to trust your intuition in ways you never have. You stop needing endless rational explanations to make choices. You can feel when something is right or wrong, even if you can't put it into words. And when you begin to follow this inner guidance, you realize that everything in your life begins to flow more naturally. This intensified sensitivity is no accident. It's a natural recalibration of your perception that takes place as part of a spiritual rebirth. It's as if, by shedding the layers of conditioning that once masked your true essence, you can now feel life more purely, more directly. Connections become more real, messages from the universe clearer, and choices more instinctive. But this transformation also brings challenges. Feeling more intensely also means you're more aware of the energies around you. Suddenly, certain people or situations that once seemed fine now feel heavy. Crowded or noisy places drain you quickly. Shallow talk loses all appeal, and you find yourself drawn to depth, to what truly nourishes your soul. What's most fascinating is that, although this hypersensitivity may feel like a burden at first, you soon realize it's actually a gift. Your intuition becomes a trusted compass, guiding you toward what truly serves your growth and away from what no longer does, and something inside you shifts. For the first time, you stop relying solely on logic to make decisions. You begin to trust your feelings. You learn to read signs, to listen to your body, to recognize when an opportunity is real and when something just isn't meant for you. The more you follow this intuition, the more aligned your life becomes. This is one of the clearest signs that you're going through a spiritual awakening. You no longer make choices based on fear or the need for external validation. You now follow a more authentic path, one guided by your own inner wisdom. And even though the path isn't always clear, you feel an unshakable certainty that everything is unfolding as it should. At this point, you look back and realize how much you've changed. The things that once defined you are gone. Life no longer feels like a loop of old patterns, but rather an open field of endless possibilities. Instead of feeling lost, you feel more aligned than ever. And even though you don't have all the answers, you've stopped searching for them outside of yourself. That's the true essence of a spiritual rebirth. It's not about becoming someone new. It's about remembering who you really are. If this message has resonated with you, and you feel like you're going through this process, take a deep breath and remember, you are not alone. Transformation is not a race. It unfolds at its own pace, in its own time, and in its own way. Just like nature follows its rhythm, the seasons changing, the tides flowing in and out, your inner journey also follows a unique rhythm that cannot be forced or compared to anyone else's. There is no single path that fits all. Your experiences, your wounds, your growth, and your awakening are entirely yours, and that makes your journey sacred. Sometimes, the process may feel confusing or even painful. There might be moments when everything seems to fall apart, and you begin to question everything you once believed. But that is exactly where the transformation begins. In the darkness of doubt, the seed of wisdom takes root. In the silence of solitude, the voice of your soul starts to whisper. Trust the signs that life places in your path, no matter how small they may seem. A song you suddenly hear, a dream that stays with you after waking up, a conversation that stirs something deep inside. These are not coincidences. They are messages, subtle nudges from your higher self, guiding you gently forward. And above all, trust your intuition. That quiet inner knowing is the most honest compass you have. The mind can doubt, the world can distract, but your intuition remains a steady flame, lighting the path even in the darkest nights. You don't need to have all the answers right now. Sometimes, just allowing yourself to feel, to pause, and to be is enough. There is ancient wisdom within you, buried beneath layers of conditioning and fear. It's the same wisdom that Carl Jung spoke of, the process of individuation, of becoming who you truly are, beyond masks, expectations, and roles. As you begin to embrace your shadows, to integrate your past, and to reclaim your authentic self, you'll realize that the journey itself is the destination. So stay open, keep exploring, keep learning. Every experience is a teacher, Every emotion, a messenger. Every challenge, a doorway. Growth is not linear. It spirals. You may revisit old wounds, old patterns, but each time you return with more awareness, more strength, more light. We are here walking this path with you. This community exists to remind you that awakening doesn't have to be lonely. By sharing our stories, our questions, and our insights, we help each other remember what we already know deep down, that we are enough, that we are evolving, and that we are never truly alone. If you felt a connection with this message, consider staying with us. Subscribe to our channel for more content about spiritual awakening, personal growth, and the timeless teachings of Carl Jung. And don't forget to turn on notifications so you won't miss what's coming next. We'll see you in the next step of this journey.